I didn't do my feeling. So,
Last chance.
I am first. Okay. So I'm the first one. So I'll just go then.
Yeah, ready when you are.
Okay. Welcome to Slow and Steady, the podcast where you get to follow along as we build products in public. Each week, we'll give you an honest peek into our lives as we share our struggles, our wins, and everything in between. I'm Benedicta, and I'm feeling relaxed.
And I'm Benedict. Today is July 11th. This is episode number 184, and I'm feeling excited. Woohoo!
Woohoo! Excited! What are you excited
Yeah.
about?
Just in general, product development is going really nicely lately. So that's
It's because your data
exciting
model
about
is
like,
so nice now.
yeah, it's improving. The data model is improving. Why do you feel like relaxed? Like, does it, you were planning to have a slow summer. So
Hmm.
are you achieving what like are you on track with that plan? Is it a slow summer
I
or is
guess
it
I am. I guess I am because, well, I was thinking that I was going to work for the bank this week, but then nobody was going to work at the bank this week. So I was like, well, see you in August. So since everybody else is coming back in August, I was like, okay, I'll take this week off as well. So everything, yes, I have good time to accomplish what I'm supposed to accomplish this week, and just came back from a long lunch at a neighbor's house. So I'm like all
nice?
relaxed, like all like I kind of want to go and sleep relaxed. I had too much freshly baked bread, which it
You
doesn't,
need some
which
caffeine
also
now.
which also makes you relaxed, So no, but it's all good, and we had a wonderful weekend at some other friend's house where I realized as a parent, like true vacation is when somebody else is in charge of all the admin. I drove down there and my friend was like, pack your bag, you need a swimsuit and towel. We're going to like this beach, or we're going on the boat. And I was just like, okay, yeah, I'll pack my things. Like I know none of the admin fell on me, which just like, so I'm just super relaxed. I had a full weekend just following somebody else's instructions like a child, and hang out on a
Yes,
beach and by the
yes,
ocean. And since I wasn't in charge of admin, I even left my phone in their house and just kind of tagged along. So I have no
nice.
photos, but I had a very nice weekend.
Yeah, it doesn't always need to have photos to be a nice weekend, right? It can be just a nice weekend, and it's not documented, but that might be nice from time to time. That reminds me,
Well,
we were visiting my parents this weekend, and we had a lengthy discussion about whether or not we did 2 or 3 vacations in Denmark in the past. And my parents insisted that we did 3, and I only remember 2. And unfortunately, we didn't find any photo proof that there was 3. So now it's like no one's sure. Like either I just missed one or was like too little to remember, or they mixed something up fundamentally. But it's both
and you
of
have
them
no
remembering a
way.
third vacation. So there's still a chance that there was actually a third, but
Yeah.
maybe it was without us. I don't remember.
But they don't have like they can't check their email. They can't like search their emails for confirmation of this third trip either, because it's
No, no,
just
no.
nope.
It was like 40, something between 30 and 40 years ago. There was, I mean, email was invented, but I'm pretty
There
sure
might
they
have been a
did not
trip
have.
30 to 40
Yes.
years ago.
Yeah.
Well, now we're
And
gonna
like,
get off on a tangent because I've been up on my newly built loft or mezzanine or whatever you want to call it that I finally have access to with my beautiful staircase. And there I'm finding cases, and like in one of the cases there's this like notebook that says we started traveling on something August 1893. But it's
1893.
yes. So
Oh,
I think it's either my great grandmother's father or husband who like wrote this,
Mm.
because I can remember there's like even like an engraved surname on there. So it can't be. She was born in 19 something, so it must be her dad, I guess. Anyway, unfortunately, the writing is in pencil, so it's so light that I almost can't
Mm.
like read it. And then I also found this notebook that my mom had started from one of our road trips into Europe, or down all the way through Germany, France, and Italy. So I'm finding a lot of like old school analog travel things up there. And then it's like what to keep and what to toss. But yeah, this is
Yeah, that's always a tough decision.
yeah. The,
My mom, like this weekend, my mom put a box in front of me with like stuff I made during kindergarten and stuff, things like that. Like little drawings and like little, I don't know, houses and boxes and trinkets and stuff like that. And she was like, "Do you want me to keep this or should I like just toss it?" And I was like, I don't know. I like, honestly, looking at it now, a lot of it was crap. So, um, and I like, I have a sister, so for a lot of the stuff, there was no names on it, so I wasn't even sure. Like, is this
yeah.
something I did? Was it something she did? I don't remember any of
Hmm.
this.
Yeah. I've been trying to come up with like a digital solution for it, but I never kind of keep up with the system. Like for Lily and stuff, like taking photos and like let's put it in Google Drive, or let's do this or let's do that, but then it kind of just ends up in a box and we forgot to put dates on it. Even though everybody tells you should put dates on it because that's much more fun later on. But
Yeah.
it's just not happening. And I wish I have some friends who are really good who like take photos of the art and then toss it right away. And they have like this um digital version of their kid stuff, but I don't know. I I'm not an archivist. Like this is not something I'm good at. I'm like I'm gonna do that later, and suddenly we have a pile, and it's just oh yeah. But
Yeah.
somebody
Yeah.
build me a smooth product for that. Build it in public, and I'll be your
Like
champion.
trash can with integrated document scanner or something like that.
Yeah, that would be awesome. No, but
Scanned and
just some
shredded in one go.
yeah, or just I guess there should be if there is a product, send me a DM because it's something about like mixing it in with all your other Google Photos feels weird. Like I want it just like in a vault, and I want to be able to download it also because I don't trust that these systems will live. So
Yeah.
there needs to be an easy out, right? In addition to being an easy way to put it in, it also needs to be an easy way to get it out so that you could like store a copy on your own hard drive in like a proper. I read this article by this guy now who was like with notes and something like the file is the system or the file is the interface, something like that, where it's like you need your notes to be able to survive a a product closing down.
Hmm.
And I feel this. I have some notes in Evernote. I can never ever stop paying Evernote because I don't know which
I'm
notes I
sure you
really need
can.
there. I probably could. I like downgraded a lot. But then I have some in
I'm
Notion. And none of those are
yeah.
like file systems, right? So it's not like
Hmm.
files that I can use for any other
Yeah.
case. Yeah, and then I started using Obsidian, which I really like actually, and that's file based. But then Tana, so much better. But I don't have any idea how to export from there. So,
Yeah.
mm,
I still have a lot of like not a lot of stuff, but I have like 2 or 3 notes in Evernote that I should probably just migrate, but it's I don't know, that's the only thing I use Evernote for these days.
yep. But then you have to have time. It's the same with the boxes in the loft. Like you need to have time to actually sit and have the mental capacity to make a
Hmm.
decision to keep or toss or migrate.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that takes a lot of mental capacity. It's like
Yes.
you need to be on when you do those things.
Yeah.
And yes, I don't
Do
know
you
if I have that right now.
I mean, now we're definitely going off topic, but do you
Yeah,
have
yeah.
like a shared Notion workspace with the family or something like that? Like,
I
do you organize your household in Notion or something else?
Oh, I've tried, but I have a partner who does not do organization. So
Okay, fair enough.
so I've realized whatever works for me, and then he is analog. So we don't need it to be shared. I've tried,
Mhm.
but
Okay,
yeah.
okay, makes
And
sense.
then for business, when we have to, we use Google Docs. We've just ended up using Google Docs because it's so simple.
Yeah.
But getting him, like, Ula does not like to learn. But in all fairness, it's my fault too, because I've changed the system like 5 times. So he's like, I'm not learning another to-do system. Like, I love those. I
Yeah.
used to love those kinds of things. Now I'm on his pay or on his side where it's like, why am I spending time to like get these systems to work? So what we've
Yeah.
ended up with that's done the most wonders for our household is we have a paper year calendar that's in our hallway.
Mm, that
It
makes
has the
sense.
full
Yeah.
year, and we put all of the important stuff on there, and we can all as a family stand around and discuss together and see the whole. So that I
Yeah.
recommend. Yeah.
We've got shared calendars.
Yeah, we have a
Like
shared
we've both
calendar. Yeah.
we have personal calendars and then but we have them shared.
Mhm.
So we see at least non-work related appointments and stuff like that. And we have a shared to-do list for groceries and for
Mhm.
like what we plan to cook in the coming week. But I'm also considering like setting up a shared Notion space for other stuff, like almost like project management type of things where like we plan to do whatever vacation or garden work or whatever, and then organize some of that stuff in there. Feels like it's a good idea or would be interesting, but I probably should set aside an entire day to come up with something.
Yes. And also I did that with the cabin. I tried to do that with the cabin with my sister and my dad. And it's the same thing, like they ended up losing their usernames and their stuff. So we've ended up just doing Google Docs there as well because they,
Mm,
at least my sister has a Google account, and it seems like Google Docs aren't changing that much on us. So even though it's not, there are other tools that could work better when you're just totally different personalities and totally different ways of working. We just ended up just writing out like SOPs for the cabin in um in a Google Doc, and it
yeah,
works pretty well.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, let's see.
Mm.
I'll decide on one solution at some point, or we should probably collectively decide, I guess.
But there's
um,
always one person in a relationship like that, even if it's like, you know, your partner or your other family. Like there's always the one person that sets it up and like has to maintain it and make sure everybody has an account and all of that. And what I realized is like if you are that person, it like at least it has to work for you because the other people will lose their password.
mhm,
They will do this or they will do that. So not trying to use something that for some reason they like and you hate because you're the one who's going to do all of the gardening
yeah,
and maintenance of the thing. So at least you need to like it good enough to want to do that.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. But so yeah, that was 40 minutes of that. We're building nothing in public.
True. Yeah. Like
Sure.
that's it. No,
But
actually, what's been going on with your work
on my
stuff?
side, yeah, so Willa and I are working now. We've had some interest in doing a sponsored Pruner Follow version 2. So we're kind of
Hmm.
working on how to package, and because last time it was a little like, oh, could we do this? And now we want to try to actually like package and pitch it as a thing. And we're talking to somebody that could potentially be a part of a Printer Follow version 2. And they were like, oh, so what are the packages? We were like, I don't know. So it looked like as soon as we said sponsored, the guy thought about how they sponsor conferences is kind of the vibe I got. So at least when I that's what I felt like. So what kind of packages are there? So for a conference, you have like the gold or the silver, bronze sponsor packages, and then you get different things for the different packages. So I was like, okay, maybe we need to think, if we're going to do them as like if we call them sponsored builds, then it would make sense to use other terminology and models that other sponsored things, the way other sponsored things in tech do it. So that's got us thinking a little bit about what type of packages we could do, and and mostly like what would we want to do, and then see how we could package that.
Makes
Because
sense.
yeah. So that would be really cool if we got enough takers that it could actually we could do it properly and actually take the time to both build it and create kind of the content that I'm realizing people want.
Yeah, just the link probably doesn't cut it.
Just no, exactly. But and then also I came over because I've had a neighbor. We have a neighbor who does she does info. I wouldn't say infomercial because that sounds like not that interesting, but she makes really good kind of movies or like little films, I guess, for instance, like there's a organization for ex-alcoholics, like, and then she'll do like some films for them, little film for them, often educational. And we've been talking back and forth about cooperating on things for a long time. And then her husband is also he can do editing, and he does camera work. So I was like, oh, hey, if we're going to be selling these sponsored packages and doing much more content, like I need the team in place. I can do it, but I procrastinated for so long because there's so many parts of the process that I'm not great at. I can do it, but I'm not great at it. I can get better, but it's always when you do that, those things that you're like, but is editing what I should be focusing on learning? And she was like, yeah, I'm not, because she does much cooler stuff. But then he was like, well, I'd be interested because they have like a home editing room. It's an old stable that they've refurbished, and they have like their like editing suite there. And he was like, well, he'd be interesting. So we've been talking back and forth. So I think we would be, if we keep on having that conversation and we can test it out, then we could promise a lot more content, which
that sounds interesting. Yeah,
would be interesting, because then like we could kind of keep the money that for like building the thing, but then I can share a lot of the money for the content, or like make some kind of agreement around that. So that would be cool. And also he can help with like how to just like this where we're sitting now streaming, like how to set up the camera better and how to light it better, and all of that stuff. He's been like building studios at the large television companies and back in the day, when that was a thing.
right.
So we'll see, but it would be really, really cool if we could sell it as like a larger project, so I wasn't spread out in so many projects. That would be great. And then for Adsera, it's the thing that all DevRels, I guess, or dev advocates having how to go about improving the docs. Like I'm like constantly thinking about it, and I'm having a hard time to like start doing it, because it's like, where am I going and how can I get there without being like, let's make a big bag project where I just like do docs for months and then like, whoa, here's the new docs, which is the opposite of building in public, right? And slow and steady. So I'm hoping it will clear, like, I mean, that part of a project where it's like percolating up in my brain, but like I can't like like it's not solidifying yet, and it's making me a little crazy. But I've been here before, which is, I guess, the good part of being older, where I'm like, I just needed to like let it simmer, like go for walks, and like look at other docs for inspiration, and just like let the brain do its thing, and then be like, now
Yeah.
you need to do something, and then like get something done. But it's like, when do I get like, when do I bring out the boot camp general? And how long do I let it simmer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in that iffy part, I guess, or I don't know what to call it, the mushy middle of this.
Yeah, sometimes just needs to rest a little bit and like being in the back of your mind, and sometimes ideas just like pop into your head and then you've got a solution, right? But you Outsider for sure already has docs, right? So why
Yeah,
don't
so
you just
that's
tweak what's already there?
that's what I have to do, right? But then it's like, where do I start tweaking and where do I want to go? Because I think we're gonna need to like, it needs to change a lot over the next couple of years or like next couple of months. And like, how much do I do in the current docs? Like, how much do I do in, because we need kind of new types of docs. I've been reading a little bit, like what we're missing is what some people have referred to as like recipe docs, where it's not like these are all of our features and here are they documented. More like, this is what you want to make. Here is an article for you on how to make what you want to make. And then it's like, where should they be located and what should the style be and which ones do we need and stuff like that. But I also think I just need to start improving little things here and there to just like get into it. But I also want to feel like I have some sort of North Star, but we'll see.
Yeah, but also like just start writing them. I mean,
Yeah.
those could be on a blog even, right? It
Yes.
doesn't.
Yeah.
The location doesn't matter that much. Like, and like start writing one, and then you figure out a format, and then you can write a second one. And when you have like 3 or 4, maybe it makes sense to move them elsewhere in the category or whatever. I feel like you're probably overthinking this a little bit.
I am overthinking it, and that's what I'm saying. Like, soon the bootcamp general needs to come out and be like, just start doing something. But also, there's like, I feel like something is going on that I just like needs to let work a little bit. But on some regards, it's just like getting it done and having the time to get it done, of course.
Yeah,
because writing these like recipe versions, that's a longer piece of thing. So I need to just start improving the API docs as a beginning. But then we're using Postman, and then Postman doesn't let you document the body. It only lets you document query params. So then you have to like do this workaround. So then I start looking at other API documentation tools, and then I'm like, no, do not look at other documentation tools. And then you haven't documented anything because you went down a rabbit hole. So yeah, I know exactly where I am in this process, and I just like, but it needs to happen with every project. Just hopefully I can get through the mushy part faster.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And then it's this like, and then it's one of these hard problems that I think all of these types of tools have, and I would be interested in hearing, but I don't know if you have this issue, but I've seen this also with Seda. I've seen it when I did some work integrating Auth0, and that is like a lot of developers, and myself included, a couple of years back, have a really hard time with client side and server side. Where it's like, well, they want to do things in Auth0, which is like writing and updating, account records. But then in their mind, they're going to do this from the front end. And then we do have, you can get an auth token, but that's for the person who's logged in, You can't then start changing other people's records when you're logged in as somebody. So then they try to create an auth token with their username and password, but that should not be in your front end code, right?
Yes.
And then they're like, well, this is just stupid. I hate this product. And it's like, well, this will never work. Like, you're not supposed to. You can never change like admin stuff from the front end. If you're not logged in as the admin, of course, then you can do that, but you can never like have a user log in and then like up anyway. So, and I've seen this as I said, with Seda, for instance, which has a key that you can only use on the server side because they don't have row level authentication yet. And like one of the things that when I was like looking more in their Discord, it happened again and again and again and again, where people are like, we're trying to like, they just use their key in the front end that has, read and write and everything access. So it's not only an hour issue, but it's like an issue that we need to tackle, because that is a lot of the support when no coders are getting more into starting develop, or like just new coders are starting and they have a mental model that essentially is wrong, and they're figuring that out by getting into problems with our product, because that's the first one in this case, or SATA if that's the first product, and then it's like how to get them across that.
This might be one of those unsolvable things. Because I feel like, especially in customer support, it's usually hard to tell people that what they are trying to do is fundamentally flawed. Most people don't like hearing this from their service provider. Some people appreciate it, but usually those are the people that, like, for the most part, know what they are doing and just messed up one occasion. And then you point that out to them. They're like, "Oh yeah, sure, stupid me." But I feel like other people are like, "Stupid product. Why doesn't it do this?" Because they don't really understand the problem at this point, right? Yeah, this might be tough.
But it's where I think more of these kind of recipe type articles could help, because then you could catch them in, you're trying to do X, you would do it this way. And then they don't go off and find this API endpoint they should never use for this use case. Like the endpoint should be there because it's a valid use case, but not for X. It's a valid use case for Y, right? Because then it would like
So sounds like recipes or like tutorials. That might make sense. They might, but there's still going to be people that are going to get creative with what they find in the docs.
Oh, always. But then I also want to, because we have this also special case that our API is basically like almost all the way to server side API, and then you have a couple of endpoints for client side. But if you as our customer log in and get an auth token for you as like the admin of an Outseta account, then you have access to all of the server side APIs also from the client side, because you are an admin. But then you log in towards us like Outseta and not your own account. So that makes it even more confusing, because you can do all of this, but only on kind of your instance of Outseta and not the other instance. So it's like
yeah.
And it's on us, like, to explain this. It's, it has to be explained. And I think just hiding the fact that you can do that might be the correct thing to do, and just say these are server-side endpoints, and then just have a tiny little note that says, if you're creating your own admin tool, you can get access to these, but you need, like, then you are that almost never.
Yeah. You have to click the checkbox. I know what I'm doing. I hereby confirm that I know what I'm doing, and I'm not holding anyone at Outseta accountable for any of my mistakes.
Yeah, that would be great. So I think, like, as I said, I think that it's better to kind of do the recipe approach or the tutorial approach than to like try to create an educational piece about client side versus server side, because nobody's going to read that until after they've had these problems for many times over. Then it's like, oh, maybe I should learn this thing, like this concept more. And now with Next doing client side things, I like doing, you never know where things are running. This is just going to be a much larger problem in general for everyone involved, not just Outseta.
Yeah, yeah. I there's been some backlash. I mean, I don't follow this too closely, but even I saw some backlash on Twitter about like next new server side stuff. I saw a
Server
lot of like,
side rent.
why don't you just use PHP, or why don't you just use Rails for this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of, I don't know. I kind of fell off. I kind of fell off all the social medias like leading up to this summer, and I need to get a new strategy in place because I need to be there. But
Do you?
I mean, for my, like, if my job now is to create like content and sell a building
Yeah.
public project that people pay me to do, I need to have some press. Well, they need to have presence and they can take my content, but I think we need to have some kind of presence to be taken seriously in that regard.
Yeah, probably. Too bad, right? I
Luckily,
feel like
Threads is not available in Europe, so I feel like that's just like, I'm like,
dodged the
oh,
bullet.
I'm just so happy I can't be like try to be on
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
yeah, similar situation. Yeah, I was like, I'm just not going to care. Yeah.
But what have you been up to?
Uh, yeah, it's been busy. It's been 2 busy weeks, I guess. Like the first week when we recorded, almost everyone was on vacation. At least it feels like that. So Michael, our customer support person, was on vacation. Jane was on vacation. So I was basically the last remaining person to man customer support. Um, and it wasn't a bad week, but I really learned to appreciate Michael and Michael's job, because like just answering like small stuff all the time, and like checking in all the time, and even just deleting the spam got annoying at some point. Luckily there wasn't nothing big, so it wasn't too stressful, but yeah, it's just a little bit of this mental load that keeps you distracted from actual, well, I don't want to say actual work, because customer support is
But you
actual
do
work,
want
but
to
there
say
you go.
actual work because it's the work you enjoy.
Yeah, like it keeps me from work that I enjoy, or like work that benefits like the product and like the product development and stuff like that. So it definitely keeps me away from that. It's an important role and it's an important task. Um, but it's not what I want to spend my time on. So that was a little bit of a reminder that um, it's a good idea to hire for that role. And I guess you're in that role a little bit as well by now, right? So
Yeah, but we're
yeah.
actually going to be testing out Evergreen support to get some help
Evergreen
on the.
support.
It's called, I think they're called Evergreen Support.
This is a service.
It's a service, and they do they do essentially what Michael does on the support side, not on the customer success side,
Yeah.
like the support side. And like fielding it to the right person and answering and collecting. I guess what they also said is that they can collect all the info that is needed before
hmm
me
Before
or the
handing it
other,
off. Yeah.
before handing it off, and like asking the typical questions like, have you tested these things, and then handing it over. And then also I suggested it would be nice if they could ping us on Slack if it's like important that something happens fast, because otherwise I usually, and I think most in our company, check support at like one or two times a day, like one time in the morning and one time in the afternoon, or just one time. And then at least when you have somebody like that, you could just check it once, because you know if there's
hmm
something that like needs to happen within a couple of hours, then they could ping us properly
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
Slack. So that
Yeah.
we added that as a part of the SOP. So I think that will be super helpful for everyone
That's
involved.
super helpful. Yeah. Just so you don't have to think about it. Like,
Hmm.
don't have to remember checking in all the time, because there might be something important. Like
Yeah.
even that is, and then maybe it's empty even, but like you
Hmm.
were still thinking about it and you went there and checked. So yeah. Anyways, was a good reminder, and it wasn't too bad, but I'm glad they're both back to work now. On the product development side of things, I spent a lot of more time on the trigger refactoring. It went really well. I ended up merging the first phase of it, sort of. So we can replace some of the triggers we have already. Not all of them, because some of them are a little bit more complicated, but simple stuff definitely works. I was able to
Remind me what a trigger is.
the trigger is basically, well, in the most basic sense, it's the thing you set up as a condition that starts the campaign. For example, when a user signs up, then you start this campaign. But the way we build our triggers is that they can be attached to almost anything. So, for example, what we just built last week was a webhook integration. So you can set up webhook endpoints in your user list account, and then when something happens, we'll send a HTTP request to that endpoint. And previously, that was kind of awkward to set up because we had UI for setting up triggers, but that was very much tied to campaigns. And now with the new way of doing the triggers, basically we only have like one type of trigger, and that gets a condition attached to it, something like the name of the event is this, and there's a user present. And when there's an event and the event name matches and the user is present, it just calls a method on whatever is attached to. So now we have a really nice UI element where you can just like select event types, for example. You want to set a webhook endpoint up and get notified about all new users that sign up. Then you just check the user created event, and it will just work. And overall, like that refactoring felt really nice, because now the way it evolved over the last couple of weeks is that it's now exactly using the same code as our segment implementation.
So like people entering and leaving segments?
Yeah, entering and leaving segments is now essentially the same thing as triggering something. Because the segments also used to, or still have, just a condition attached to them. And if the condition is true, they join the segment. And once the condition is false, they leave the segment. And the trigger is basically just that first part, right? If the condition is true, they join the trigger, if that makes sense. And the exit just is ignored because it's not happening. But that's not the same code. It's actually the same file that handles both cases, and that's kind of nice because it removes a lot of moving parts that were there before. And we also had a condition trigger type where, for example, you could start a campaign when a user matches a certain condition. For example, their plan changes to past due, then it would start the campaign. So we had a trigger like this for the past 2-3 years, something like that. And funny enough, like the new unified version of the triggers almost exactly looks like this particular trigger. There's a little, like, some small changes, but for the most part, it's just that. And once we figured out the remaining parts, we can basically just roll everything into this one trigger type, and we will delete a lot of code, in which I'm as usual more excited about deleting code than about writing code. So yeah, that's going really well.
And I guess much easier to reason about the code when things use a similar or use the same concept, instead of being like, oh, if it's this type, then we do this thing. But if it's this type, we do this thing. But if we do that, and then the only person who knows is the only person who knows is you, right? And then you have to explain that, and then or document it, which you might not have done. I don't know
how. Internal documentation is not our strong point.
No,
right now.
And then, but then, like making it simpler is better, I would say, than spending a lot of time documenting all of the weird cases that you've come
Yeah,
up with.
for sure. And
Okay.
it's a lot more flexible. Like
Yeah.
previously, having different UIs to set up triggers wasn't an option. Now we can basically build whatever UI we need for whatever use case, and it might look
Mhm.
totally different. As long as the same data structure falls out of it, it'll just work. So
Yeah.
that's great. On the front end side of things, so this was all backend, or for the most part, backend related work. On the front end side of things, Leo has been starting experimenting with a visual automation builder or visual workflow builder. And it was a little bit funny. Like initially, he was a little bit scared about the project and intimidated,
I
I guess.
understand that.
But we explicitly decided to do an experiment and a prototype first with the full intention to throw it away. Like this was never intended to be iterated on and stuff like that. And basically within 2, maybe 3 weeks, we built the entire prototype. Like it doesn't look pretty, but it works the way we wanted to. The data structure works the way we wanted to. It's the rendering, like rendering the nodes and like lines between them and stuff like that, works as we wanted to. The code is fairly simple. Like we we had some iterations there on where the code was working but was like super complicated, and like even explaining it was near impossible. But the latest iteration on the prototype we made, there's not a lot of code. We tested all the concepts that we wanted to have, stuff like drag and drop, reordering, editing, and stuff like that. And yeah, while we took a break this week, like we finished up the experiment last week, we're taking a break this week. Jane is going to work on the design side of this right now, and once that's somewhat ready, we're going to build an actual thing. And sure, there are still some open questions, especially in terms of like how does this work on the server side, with like stuff like what happens if you start an automation and then pause it halfway in between, move stuff around, and then restart it again. Like what happens to users that are halfway through that automation and stuff like that. That's some open question we still have to figure out. But in terms of UI, we are set. Like I don't see any problems with this. We can probably ship
That's
UI for
awesome.
this
I'm very
in 2
excited
weeks or
about
something like
this.
that. Yeah, me too. It's like even the prototype turned out so nice that we spent up like just sitting in front of it, mindlessly moving stuff around and creating like
So is it an abstract syntax tree?
yes, it is. But that's always
I
what
knew
it that's always what it was in the backend, anyways. Because
Yes.
like most of the backend side of this is already done. It was more a question of like getting UI for this. So
I
that
saw
concept stayed the
John,
same.
the browser bear and browser banner
Mhm.
bear and
Yeah.
browser bear, I guess is his company's now on Twitter. I almost wrote it, or did I write it? But he was like having some issues with some like conditional logic that you can do you could do it like conditional
Mhm.
logic visually and stuff, and I was like, abstract syntax tree.
It's free. Yes,
But I
indeed.
don't know, but then I was like, when people are trying not to be the person who just like throws in new concepts, but I might have done. I don't remember if I did or not, but I was like, I know this. Benedict talked about this. It's not even my knowledge.
Well, it's not my knowledge either. I'm just using what other people came up with before, right?
Yes.
But yeah, super excited about this. And I'm
It's
looking
gonna be a
forward to
game
just
changer.
share it. Like it will be a bit of a game changer. Well, I don't know. Like in terms of user list itself, yes, game changer for sure. In terms of like email marketing industry in general, yeah, probably not. Like we're not the first ones to build this. Almost everyone else has something like this. So
Yes, but I feel like this is gonna be better.
hopefully. at least it will unlock a lot of new use cases in user list itself. So I'm excited
Mhm.
about that part. And because it's like modular in its approach, it feels like we can just like build more building blocks, and then people can come up with more creative stuff than what they can do right now. So that's I guess the exciting part. So yeah, that's what's going on my side.
Cool.
I'll share more once things are in a usable state, I guess.
Well, in 2 weeks, because we're doing these every 2 weeks now, it's probably done already.
Yeah, maybe not entirely, but maybe I can share some of the UI experiment, or well, not experiments. Actually, some of the actual UI would be nice.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I'd love to see a little bit of like building public snippets here.
Yeah, that would be
Download
fun.
that Screen Studio that I see everybody using now, where like your little product videos get really, really pretty, and then just show off some of the stuff you've done.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember seeing that one.
Hmm I'm gonna be
Mm.
downloading that this summer because I'm still planning on doing a summer of UI tweaks.
Oh,
So
yes.
yes, and then I will be
You have to
using
do it
this to be
soonish
like,
because summer's in full swing.
well, the Americans, they have summer in August as well, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're gonna do last 2 weeks of July, which is next week, and beginning of August.
Good to know, because we wanted to join. So
Well,
maybe I should think about something.
yeah, think about it. It would be fun if we were more people, like I said last time. It would be fun. So get on it. But I think we need to wrap this one up.
Yes. Let's wrap this up
And
and
maybe
then
ask the lovely editor to take all of our chats about boxes on the loft and like cut it out and like put it in after we say goodbye as like a bonus.
yeah, I don't know, why not? Or let's
Let's
I'm
just
okay with leaving it there.
yes. I'll talk to
Cool.
you in 2 weeks and see folks around the interwebs.
Yep. See you. Bye.
Bye.